Man, well, thanks, man. I've been trying to reach out to Mr. Arabian Prince, man, over a year now, man. I know the man is busy. Very thankful he took time out of his day to work with us. We
Appreciate it.
we we a community-based organization, Craig Clifton Inc. We mentor kids. We use a lot of hip hop in our approach to build common ground with the kids and build a rapport with them. Of course, we listen to a lot of NWA, and so this is, why, we were reaching out to you a lot because we saw that you also work with kids and you also have a program, and we just wanted to get into that and talk about your time with NWA. And I'm Craig. That's my cousin, Jamel.
Right.
Wifey,
Yes,
she's
sir.
somewhere in the mix. She's in the doctoral program, but I don't know if she's gonna join us. But if she do, maybe not. But let's get it going, man. Again, we use hip hop a lot as we talk to kids about the messages that we hear, and let them know that it's not all negative. That you guys were real businessmen and you guys had concepts and creativity that y'all used, and look how many branches then build out from that stem of NWA. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been around, from the beginning of it all.
Yeah, man. On the West Coast, dude. Like we are called me and some of us, Dre and Egyptian Lover and Unknown DJ, Lonzo, all of us, man. We like the Yoda of
Right.
the West Coast. Because we started that music scene and we were all DJs. So, that's how most of the producers and a lot of the artists started, DJing, man, just rocking parties, and that turned into making music. So yeah, we've been doing it since like the early 80s, man, maybe even the late 70s, because I was a kid making mixtapes in elementary school. Yes, sir.
Right. Cause Egyptian Lover, when that was like one of the first LA songs that hit up here.
Yeah,
and
where you got that?
Yeah, and way back then it finally made its way to our radio.
Milwaukee,
So
Wisconsin.
we in the techno scene, so we thinking, okay, that's LA. Before it switched, we like that's LA hip hop. And then like a lot of our artists around there tried that same style. You hear, you imitate what you hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it's crazy, man, because everybody always say people, when you say hip hop, it's always like, okay, hip hop was the like gangster and like the slow beat hip hop. I'm like, people forget, man, like Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, some of the Sugar Hill Gang stuff. A lot of the early cats was doing really up tempo stuff. But
up tempo
hip hop came from like a blend of disco and craft work and Parliament Funkadelic. It was like what we were listening to was pop and funk and electronic music and that kind of stuff. And as DJs, which you actually created what you played. And that's kind of how that whole thing came about, man. And people try to forget about the up tempo stuff, man. But if it wasn't for that, hip hop wouldn't be here today.
Right. Yeah. Craft work, people don't talk enough about, like how influenced, like they don't know how deep it, like the 808s, people don't know how deep. Well, you know all about, I know that's you.
Yeah.
But people don't know how deep it really, like the tempo and like what hip hop really started as, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we got to get more people to talk about.
I'm them. I don't even know about it. So what I want to ask, the kids that you work with now, when you tell them about your contributions to hip hop, how do they feel about that? And how do you connect it to what you're teaching them now?
Yeah. So, my approach, man, because, I build tech centers for kids in the inner cities.
Right.
I'm talking to them. I'm always traveling the country. And, they go, oh, you was in NWA. I'm like, yeah, but, I'm a technologist. I'm a computer cat. I'm in all of these other things. So you can do both. You can still be cool and hip and do this. You ain't always got to be always over there. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we see is what we imitate. So we got to show the other sides. Like Ice Cube, he's a businessman. He's got the big threes, film, television. He's doing all that. Dre, same thing. He's a businessman. So if you look at all of these hip hop guys, mimic both sides. Don't just gravitate to what you see, the cars and the money and the women and all of that. look at the behind the scenes and what these guys are really doing. They're building legacies and brands and companies and, you know, moving and other thing, man, because none of them want to go back to the hood. Like you do what you do to get out the hood. You don't
Right.
get out and pretend like you still in. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
don't
Like
stay there.
nowadays. And that's how we try to tell the kids, like, all right, so if you can't rap or you can't produce, so now you just think you just shut out of hip hop, you shut out, that's it. But no, it's so many other avenues and back behind the scenes stuff that you not shut out. Just don't open your mind, be
Yeah.
broad.
Yeah.
And we don't teach it enough.
No, I used to teach a music business class for this international school called Point Blank Music Academy. And the first thing I would ask my students, because it was all different kind. There were artists, there was people in there was like, I don't know what I want to do. I like music business, but I just want to get in. So I'll be like, all right, let me ask one question first. Who in here wants to be famous? And not everybody raised their hands because a lot of people don't want to be famous. Like I really could care
Right.
less about fame
Right.
myself. That's why a lot of people don't know I was in NWA because I really wasn't that cat. I was creative. I just want to make music. I don't care about look at me, you know. And
Right.
I ask, how many of y'all want to be successful? Everybody raises their hands. So I say, don't get it twisted on what you see in the music industry. Not everybody you see flashy money, jewelry, cars, all of that, they're not successful. They may be famous, but you really got to go deep and look in at their business model and make sure that they take care of their business because there's a lot of people out there probably making more money off of them than them. So you got to
Right.
do, and all these kids that I talk to, yeah, you may not be able to rap, you may not be able to sing, you may not be able to play music or DJ or perform, but all of these people need managers, they need agents, they need people that's working on their brand, they need all of
Publicists.
so
Oh,
there's so many ways to make money in the music industry.
And that's a good point. So when you say, would you add mentors to that? Would you think that mentors would be a good resource for somebody who want to use their art to get to the next level, having mentors like yourself, especially who actually was in the game?
Oh, 1000%. And that's what I do. Like I'm always trying to uplift. We just had here in LA, the NAMM show, the biggest music
right.
event in the country. It was just from Thursday to this Sunday. And so many people that I know or I've seen, like these up and coming next generations, they always come up and ask questions, and I'm like telling them the real deal. Like this one, I need a manager. I'm like, what you need a manager for? A manager for? You ain't got nothing to manage. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
I'm trying to get them on they hear, oh, I need to be on like a major label. Why? Like you're in like, yes, back in the day, you needed a major label to push your music. And I'm not saying
Promotion.
that that's not the pinnacle. Like if you can get to the point to where a major label wants you, but on your terms and not on their terms, I think
Negotiation.
there you go. So, you know, why do you want to be on a major? Why do you want a manager now? Like build your brand. We're in a world where you got social media, man. You can build your own following and sell directly to your consumers. We couldn't do that back in the day. So
And
now
keep all the money.
keep all the money. So if you're doing it just for the like to say I'm on Sony, to say I'm on Interscope, to say I'm on these labels, that's fine. But you know, I always tell people, yeah, the guy who sold 1 million records. Now, this is some crazy, like you can go look it up. The
Right.
guy who sold 1 million records on a major label may not make much money. But if you sell 100,000 records on an independent label or on your own label, you'd have made 10 times the money that dude did made because he's making probably 50 cents a record or 25 cents a record, not even $1. I think Michael Jackson had the best record deal out there and he was making $1.
A
So,
buck. Right.
right. So if you ain't making that, and if you're doing it independently and you selling an album, you can make the whole $10 or the whole $8, whatever that is. So
Whatever it is.
do I care if I sell 1 million records if I'm not making $1 million? Let me sell 100,000 records and make $1 million and just keep doing that over and over and building my brand, building
What-
my.
This is a good transition. I'm glad you said that because I was just thinking about it. Because when y'all first started, when y'all was on Mottola, that was really independent then, right?
Oh, that wasn't even independent, man. We were selling out the trunk. Like, you know what I'm
Right. I
saying?
mean,
Like,
I consider that independent. Right.
yeah, Macola wasn't even a late. Macola was just a manufacturer, and
The
we
manufacturer. Okay.
paid to get your stuff pressed. So we would press records, press cassettes, and split them up. Like, here's yours,
Here
here's
go
yours,
your box. Here go. Right.
and whatever you sell it, you make, and everybody would go in different directions. You sell it that swap meet, you sell it, you know, VIP Records, rest in peace, Cletus, who just passed away
Oh,
yesterday or the day before.
oh,
Who
okay.
owned
Rest in
VIP in
peace.
Long Beach. You would just sell to the people, and you drop off a couple. What you do is you just drop a couple records off. Like, I'm gonna give you a couple for free. They sell. You know, maybe you order from me. Here's my pager, because we have phones back there. Here's my
Right.
pager.
Yeah, the pager. Right.
Yeah, and that's how we grew it. And then, you know, we got hit with the major label bug from
Priority.
it. In hindsight, though, I would have looked back, we probably would have made way more money just staying independent, because if we could have blown up NWA, I did JJ Fast Supersonic. That was a big record that was independent technically, because that was on Dream Team Records. That wasn't even on a major. And
That
then
was on Dream. It was on Dream Team first, right?
on Dream Team, and then had some, you know, little discrepancies with my boy Rudy from the Dream Team not paying us properly. So I brought it back and put it on Ruthless Records with NWA. Then we got the deal at Atlantic or Atco Records. But up until the end, it was just money coming in independently. Yeah.
So, well, that's my point then, because I was telling the kids the other day when we was talking about NWA, I brought them back up, and I'm like, well, he's a founding member, so you know the first thing we don't hear of him.
Right.
So I'm like, well, if it wasn't for his song Supersonic, I would go 98%. It probably wouldn't be NWA.
Probably. I mean, everybody
I go 9. I
it.
mean, it seems like it's talented people, and something could have happened, you know, but I
Yeah,
would go with that money. That did it. I think that did it.
it accelerated it for sure, you know, because having a hit record on the label before NWA really blew up, like, you got a hit record on Ruthless and it's got a deal. Oh, what else you got? Oh, you know, it's
That's
kind of
it.
like that. And then a lot of stuff I don't talk about. My father, we had a little push because my father was the editor of Urban Network magazine, Cashbox magazine, all the music magazines at the same time. And he was the editor of Players magazine, which was the adult
Right.
magazine.
Right.
So he had all these magazines, and he was putting us up in everything. Every time something would go down in the magazine, NWA was in there. Whenever they were shipping out their promo CDs, NWA was in there. So we had a couple things working for us to give us that push. But like you said, it was underground gangster rap that wasn't nobody really checking for back then. So it may have happened, but it would have taken a little bit longer.
So,
And depending on look how big magazines was back then, because that was the only outlet. You know, a magazine was like
there
the
was
biggest thing you
and
can
I
get.
be telling fools, like, dude, we from the before times. There was no internet. Like, I had internet. It was basic, but you know, you had, what was it, dial in,
Right, a
but
dial
there
in,
was
a
no, like,
CD. Right.
yeah, there wasn't no Google, no Yahoo. Like, if you wanted something, you had to hear it on the radio or read a magazine, and that was it. And that's what everybody.
congratulations, man, on Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't know if you participated, but you part of that group.
Oh,
So
they take care of me, but I don't participate. Matter of fact, we're getting a Lifetime Achievement Awards at the
Grammy.
Grammys. I won't be
Congratulations
there
on that.
because of
Okay, there we
issues I
go.
got with
So is a lot of
his
that
wife and stuff, but it's cool.
What you
Yeah.
mean by
is a
that?
lot of that your choice, or is it legal, or
It's
both?
not even legal. Like, I had some issues with Easy's wife, you know, over royalties and stuff, because I took
Right.
care of my business when I left. So people got to pay me, and when they don't pay me, I sue.
And that's what we want the kids to know more about. What
Yeah,
when
it's
you
about business.
yeah. So when you say, you know, those discrepancies, as it's like contractual stuff or
Yeah, you know, because like
stuff.
I left NWA because of our manager not paying us. And no disrespect to anybody else in the group at the time. So we were starting to make money with NWA, but it hadn't blown up yet, right? We just did Straight Outta Compton, but Supersonic had blown up, which was my record.
Right.
And I'm like, I ain't getting paid off of this. Like, what's up? I kept telling Dre and Cube and everybody said, man, this fool's like ripping us off. And then we would do concerts and anybody can attest to this. When you do a concert, you get a deposit before you leave, right? So we were
Right.
going on this little tour. Boom, the deposits would come in. All right, deposits are coming in. You can go. We go to the show. We would get the money at the show, but we never saw the deposit. Jerry Heller was keeping the deposits. And I was the only one, and I think it was a blessing for me because I was the only one in the group who was making records before
You
on
was
my
a solo
own
artist though.
as a solo
You was
artist,
solo
right? And producing other stuff.
and all the right.
Right. So I kind of knew about royalties. And then two, I had my own apartment. I had a car. So I had car payment, apartment payment. I wasn't living at home, Dre. Everybody
You
else
had a
was
grown
living
man
at home.
business.
So I had like bills. And I'm like, hey man, I need to get paid. Like I can't be out here on the road, police, gang members after us, all of this shit. And then I can't get paid. Like, where the other half of our money? And it was always an excuse from Jerry. So I eventually got an attorney, figured it out, went to Jerry, got paid. He didn't want me to take Supersonic. So I said I did a deal to keep Supersonic there, but I get my percentage of everything
Get your cut.
for life. So
Oh, okay,
when
right.
Easy died, Easy's wife took over. And I ain't got no problems with her. She cool, whatever. But sometimes the money didn't add up, or I wouldn't get paid for this, and I paid for that, and I always got to go back and check on it. So, a lot of it is just not that I don't want to be there. It's just that there's issues. So I'm good as long as I get paid, man. And I don't care about the fame side, man.
Do you think? I know you probably. I mean, maybe I don't know. Do you think you was the reason? Do you spark Cube to think the same way? Do you think
Oh
your
yeah,
situation because you left before, then
no,
Cube like right
Cube
after, like
left
hold on,
not too long after me, right? Because
right?
I think and nobody tells this story. So I got a new Porsche, right? And I was
Okay,
still cool with everybody. I wasn't in the group no more, but I was still
this
cool.
from the Supersonic that Jerry deal,
Yeah.
or money you
From
had.
that and NWA, I got my money from everything. So I
Okay,
went to
okay.
a concert in my new Porsche to hang out with everybody. It was like, where'd you get that from? I'm like, oh, y'all need to talk to Jerry. And that was at the time what happened in the movie where Jerry had gave everybody contracts and was like, sign this so you can get paid. And Cube was like, wait a minute, why I gotta sign this to get paid when Arab he running
Arab
around?
got paid.
Yeah, he got paid. So that's when Cube left.
So you had some good teaching, man. You had your pops. He was already doing
He'd
stuff.
been in the business forever. You know what I'm
Business.
saying? Yeah.
So was
And
you
then you
trying?
started young too, so all that, like how maybe everybody else in the group was just amazed by the fame. You was already putting out records. You was young, so you
Yeah.
kind of got all that out the way. Now
Yeah.
it's business.
I made my first record at I think 16 or 17 by myself. Like I
Right.
didn't have no help. Like I was hanging around, I was doing stuff with Uncle Jam's Army and everybody DJing when I was young. I had my own little club, little teen club called The Cave in the hood.
Okay.
And everybody was like, I remember when Egypt was like, we going in the studio to make a record, Uncle Jam's Army. I'm like, what? Wow. And I was hanging out with the Wrecking Crew at the time too, and Dre and
Mm-hmm.
Lonzo and
Yeah.
Yellow Dog. And it was like, we going in the studio to make a record. I'm like, what? Everybody was making records. And I was down with everybody, but I wasn't actually in a crew. So
It's cool.
I figured it out on my own, man. Saved $500. And then I was working at literally working at a pet store. And how that happened was I had DJ'd Quinceañera, right, at this hall in the hood. And after I'd done that party, it's like a teen party, I asked the guy who owned that hall, what do you do with this space when you're not renting it out? Like, does it just sit here until somebody rents it? He goes, yeah, just sit here until somebody rent it. I said, man, I got a pretty good following because I DJ at schools,
Right.
and I do something here on weekends. I could bring money in. I got a following. So we started this thing called a cave. The dude was nice enough, man. He bought me some speakers, bought me some turntables, and then I started working at his pet store because the pet store was connected to the hall. So I would work at the pet store during the day and go practice my DJing at the hall. And then Friday and Saturdays, I go to the store, buy like 5 or 10 bottles of Coke and Pepsi and Sprite and some red cups. It was selling
Okay.
10 cups of soda to all the teens at the club, man. And everybody should come through there and fall through. Dre, everybody came, even Bobcat, a lot of the cats came through. and DJ'd there. But that's how I got in. And then once I started making records, I had $500. The guy who had the club or the little spot gave me another 500. So I went in the studio with a G and came out with some songs. I had never been in a recording
I'm gonna
studio.
say, did you know the equipment or anything?
So my mother was a classical pianist. So she taught me how to play the piano.
Okay.
My father was a bass player, and all my cousins and uncles was just into music. They was gangsters and got sent away to the military. So when they would come back from overseas on them boats, they was bringing electronics. So my cousin had bought a ARP 2600 synthesizer, that old one with the cables and the, you know, like the mad scientist thing. So I've been playing with that thing for like 6 years. So I knew how to use a synthesizer. I had bought some Sensonic drums, the little toy drums, Mattel, and I was messing around with them in the clubs. So I got in the studio and I knew what I wanted. Like, I like Prince, I like Parliament Funkadelic, and I like Kraftwerk. I want to make a song. So it came out like a mix of all three. It was like pop, electro, punk.
And it worked.
It worked. And then slowly I figured out how to get closer to the Kraftwerk sound. So
yeah, we go, yeah, man. That's you gave us a lot for kids to think about, even adults, not just kids, because we mentor college as well as middle schools and private schools. And when let me ask you this though, did you know about the 5 elements of hip hop and all of that stuff growing up, coming up in LA? Did that inspire you in any kind of way?
I mean, you know, I'm gonna be, not to be ignorant, I don't even know what the 5 elements of hip hop are now. Like, I've heard people say that, like literally, I've heard the terminology, but I'm a hip hop head, but I'm not a hip hop historian. So, you know, I'm always, it's weird, man. And this is just my mentality. I stay away from listening to a lot of hip hop music, because when you create music, you don't want to get ideas. You want to stay pure in who you are. That's just who I am, you know.
That's smart.
But yeah, I've heard of those theories and those things. Maybe you could explain it to me, since, you know. Yeah.
Before we explain, was it big in was that even part of LA culture? Was hip hop like the elements and all that, or was it just like pop,
So,
like it was
you know
its own
what?
thing?
I'm a debunk a lot of that. Just if there's somebody out there who's a hip hop head or a historian wants to get mad at me or check me on it, fine. What I found out, and I know this because I talked to everybody who's been in the business, all the dudes who made hit records, what the perception is of what people think we are and what we was doing was not what we were thinking at the time we did it. A lot of it turned into that, like the Tupac thing, the Biggie thing, or NWA and Puff. Oh, okay, I'm gonna be one group, maybe. Okay, Google, stop. One group, maybe 2 groups was the ones that like was doing their thing and stayed in that lane. That's Public Enemy, for sure. They came out. This is who we are. Power to the people. The whole thing. Fight the power. Public Enemy. KRS-One. Those were the cats that were like that, right? We were NWA. We were talking about, God dang, okay, Google, stop. We were talking about what was going on in the hood, but it wasn't about, it was about what we gonna eat. Like, we was trying to eat. We was hungry. We was like trying to come up. And I think a lot of the rappers and artists out there, when they're initially doing their thing, they're just trying to come up. And then you start feeling that thing like, oh, this is bigger than just us getting some money to go eat and get a car or to get a spot. This is a legacy that we have to uphold. So for NWA, for everybody else, for the Tupacs and the Biggies and the Public Enemies and everybody else, you kind of grow into that legacy. And I think that 5 pillars of hip hop, or whatever you're saying, is something that people grow to. It wasn't nothing that people were thinking about when they was creating it. That's my
time.
What is it?
Right. Remember, they couldn't get into the discos in New York and all that. So it wasn't about, it was just something we could fit in. This is what we,
because we got like we got 10 minutes. So
okay.
We got so MC, DJ, which is you mastered the DJ element, graffiti.
Yes.
What else? Because is it breakdancing?
Yeah.
You got the MC and breakdancing, B-boys.
Yeah.
Knowledge or something like that. Yeah.
Then it's knowledge.
That's it. But I was always curious, because listening to West Coast music, and listening to East Coast. You know, we in the middle of everything. We Midwest.
Right.
So, you know, our artists such as like Bone Thugs and Harmony, Twista, Common, you know, if you listen to Midwest hip hop, you will hear kind of like everything mixed in, South, West. So
Yeah.
I was just wanting to know, like, you know, the West Coast was so cold back then. NWA, Too Short, Ice-T, the stuff that we listened to. We never really heard them say stuff like 5 elements of hip hop or.
Nah, like I said, I think those are things that, like, I'm gonna be honest. If you go back and look at who coined that, it probably wasn't a hip hop.
The Bambaataa brothers, wasn't it? The
It
African.
may have been. It may have been. And like I said, that's they. So you go again. African Bambaataa, Soul Son, all of Bambaataa was into that thing. You know what I'm saying? Like certain guys were a part of like looking at this. Like, you know, Karis One, that there's some controversy with him talking about he wouldn't go to the awards or go
Right,
perform
50
for the
hip hop.
50th anniversary of hip hop because of his theory of hip hop and us being exploited. Like they wasn't checking for us before, but now 50th, everybody want to make money off of it. So
Right.
I gotta hit you with a tough one, Prince.
Yeah.
Special Ed said NWA created the age of destruction. What's your thoughts on that?
No, because I look at it this way. If you look at every city has the hood, they got projects, they got this, drugs, gangsters.
100%.
All we were just telling stories about what was going on in our hood. Sugar Hill Gang and Grandmaster Flash, Fierce Fly, they was talking about it, but they just weren't cussing on it. You know,
That was the only difference.
Employment at a kid high, and you know, even Run DMC, everybody was talking about the hood. We just talked about it Compton way, right?
Yes, y'all.
Ice-T,
Y'all swag.
same thing. Too Short. We wasn't as it was so much bubbling up around the same time. You know, even Two Live Crew, they talked about their hood. The Miami hoods was all about women and strip clubs. So
Right.
yeah, Special Ed. I mean, I actually don't even like him. It's everybody's got their opinion on it. You know what I'm
Because
saying?
Special Ed, he's to me, it's more like, all right, MWA was probably at that time, you can kind of say like just the biggest. It just blew up so fast. And then every record label is going to try to copy what made money.
Right.
So you can go there and he can, I just go with it. Just, if one of y'all would have played the flute and everybody loved it, everybody else would have copied the flute. It was just the sound we're going to copy. And that's always music from back in the day. It's the same thing.
Yeah. And I just think I don't even think it was us. I just think it was the time, man, because give you a perfect example. We was all doing party music on the West Coast, right?
Right.
We all doing dance music, everybody like, freaking and all of that. And toward the end of us DJing in these big arenas and big events, the gang scene was rising up, right? And you would see it. And I think the gang culture killed the parties, right? And then you was like, well, we can't do party music anymore. We're going to talk about the gang culture because that's the hot thing right now is to go into that. And that's what I think pretty much happened with that. It was just like now, like the new generation of rap, they talking about what the kids are into. So it hasn't changed. And,
The same thing.
We didn't start it. It was just a project of our culture of what was bubbling up in the inner cities and in the hoods.
Would you say hip hop saved your life?
Oh, hell yeah. Hip hop and my crazy ass uncles, because they said they was going to kill me if they saw me in the streets.
I'm kicking it in the streets, right?
Because them fools was the crazy ones in the hood. You know what I mean? They used to scare Suge Knight. Like if Suge was younger than my uncles. And my uncle was the ones that was running Compton. And they was like, we don't want you in that. You play football, you do this. Oh, you in that music thing? That's good. And it definitely did, man, because, I could have gone down the wrong path just as easily as anybody else,
Yeah, because people don't know how big that was if you had a family member, especially if they was in the streets and they told you don't do it.
Oh, dude.
That was a sign like I'm not going to do it. If you will stray, eventually they'll let them go. But most likely they told you you're going to try your best to stay away as long as you could.
Hey, if my uncles had been done what they did to me today, back then, they be in jail for child endangerment. Because them fools caught me they said, don't go to that liquor store. Caught me at the liquor store one day That was in
Right.
I wasn't supposed to be there young. Them
Right.
fools put my face in the gutter, dude, like in the mud. And
Ooh.
like, you see this? Like, this what they gonna do to you. And we ain't
Right.
gonna be there to help you. So I'm like, well, goddamn. And then every time I do something bad, they would open up I'll never forget this, dude. They would open up the living room window and whoop my ass in the living room and tell all my friends, come watch us get
Everybody
good
see
ass.
it.
So
Listen,
Everybody does see it.
that's how, when we talk about our community, that's what we know. And to us, like you said, it put us on the straight path. And these unconventional ways were a blessing in disguise, man. I mean, oh man,
And
this
once you said uncle, it just popped so many flashbacks in my head that what happened. I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it's the reality. But it was it was hard then, but it's a blessing.
Yeah.
who was the first person to tell you was good at DJing? That gave you that confidence to
So
keep going?
this is crazy. So how I got into DJing was actually my father had a talk radio show on
Okay.
KH radio on the weekend on Sunday. There was no music on Sunday. It was mostly talk radio, I think gospel or something. So I would go with him and hang out in the control room opposite him. So I had access to every record, all the turntables and the carts, and I was making mixtapes to take to school to sell for lunch money, and got really good at just making these
We had
mixtapes.
all the records.
Had all the records. I had stuff that nobody could get. And then the school asked me to do a dance. I didn't even have turntables, dude. I begged my parents to buy me one turntable. And then my boy Termite did the same thing. We had two turntables.
Now you got two.
We bought a little cheap ass mixer from Radio Shack and built our own speakers, like wood, like built the speakers,
Bill
built the
actually built it.
soften. Yeah, yeah. And we didn't know anything about like you had to put like insulation and put holes in them. We just put some speakers in a big box. I was like, that sounds like garbage. So then my uncle said, yeah, well, you gotta like here, open up a real speaker. What's a crossover? Like, what's a crossover? Okay. We learn and then we,
And you
we
learn.
got it going. Yeah.
Inside scoop, boss. You produce or Ghost produce any other records on that Straight Outta Compton or?
Oh yeah, I have my hands in a lot of the stuff on Straight Outta Compton, on all the NWA stuff, like, because I was the guy who had all the equipment. So, a lot of people, we used my equipment on a lot of stuff. I worked on pretty much everything till I left.
All of them records.
Because in the concerts too, you was like on stage, you had to be the DJ. I mean, I know it was Yella and Drake, but people don't. I mean, I'm like, he's a DJ too, so he was probably half of the show was I'm mixing half the show, you doing half the show or whatever.
Yeah. I was like, there's some pictures out there and some videos. Like my job was I do my song or two, and then I was running the drum machine and DJing, and we always had two DJ setups. So me and Dre or me and Yella was DJing, and I would run the sequences, all the drum machines and all of that. So
when the DJ, who would win, you, Dre, or Yella?
I win because I'm gonna be honest, because I'm the only one like who had been DJing from then till now. I haven't stopped DJing. Yella stopped, Dre stopped. I mean, it's like getting off a bicycle, but I've been DJing since day one. I've never stopped. And then Yella's just recently kind of gotten back into it. But yeah, I would say me, because I've been DJing for 42 years, nonstop.
Never stop. Never stop.
Yeah.
Man, thank you for your time, man. Zoom gonna cut off, man. This is really, really good.
I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate
it. I'm always up y'all way, man. If you ever need me to come talk to the kids, let me know, dude. I'd do it anytime.